Okay, so we picked up this L2501 Kubota with the loader attachment. If you guys are just now tuning in for this first video of the tractor and you haven't seen our last video, which was the introductory to this tractor for the first time. So, you know, when we got this tractor, we went ahead and we put a loader attachment, the LA526, as you can see, and we went in with the HST. So that's just a quick recap of what we're working with here. So that was all I picked up on it. So I wanted to go out and get an implement, and I have other implements that I'm interested in getting, but I wanted to get one that I probably are gonna end up wanting to use first. So with that being said, let's look over here. Picked up a bush hog, aka brush hog, whatever you guys want to address it as, or rotary cutter. Several different names for this piece of equipment. This is a piece of equipment. It's like a mowing deck that attaches to the back of your tractor, and you can basically mow down sizable size bushes, small little trees up to like 1 or 2 inches thick, depending on the size of the bush hog is that you got and its capabilities, and then lots of field grass and such. It's good for a variety of mixture of things when you're mowing. I did pick this one up, which is, if you look down here, it is a Countyline, and this is from Tractor Supply. Now, I didn't get this from Tractor Supply. My thing was I couldn't justify buying one of these brand new. They range anywhere from about $1,700, well, I would say on the lower end, $1,500 up to about $2,500, and then they can get even more expensive depending on the size you get for the size tractor you happen to have. This one's a 5-foot deck, and I wanted to get that so it would at least be the same width as the back 2 tires width. So what I'm talking about is, if you look back here, if this is your first time messing with tractors, you want your deck to be able to reach the outside of this tire to the outside of this tire. That way you have a good width when you're going down in your field. So if you're getting up against fences on either side, at least the mower deck will come out to the edge of the tire, so you don't leave big gaps in between right here on either side of the tractor when you're mowing, thus leaving spacing that you'd have to come back and probably use like a weed eater or small lawnmower or something to finish getting those pieces you missed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unload this bush hog, and I'm going to service it for the first time, probably since the original owner serviced it. And what I mean by servicing this thing is I'm going to grease all the grease zerks that are on the wheel, on the spindle right there, on your shaft right here, on the knuckle down there, the knuckle up here. As you can see, there's like these little grease zerks, like such as this one right here, and that way these zerks will be nice and greased. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to be switching out this shaft myself. This is an older shaft from when they originally brought this. You can see there's a little bit of plastic damage from the sun rotting. Same down here, some pieces that have sun rotted and it's starting to kind of get dried out, which doesn't really hurt the functionality of this, as long as the knuckle and your PTO fitting here and the little button that releases the PTO, you know, you can push that in like so on, as you can see, will lock onto your PTO knob. You'll be able to utilize this. But I still wanted to get this thing kind of maintenance and ready to go, so when I do use it this year, there's no issues. And then we'll go through things you should look for when you're purchasing this particular piece of equipment. Other implements such as like blades and box blades are pretty well straightforward, so you don't have to worry about checking a bunch of moving parts. But this has a gearbox, which is right there. And then of course you have your shaft, and then you have on the bottom down here, I don't know if we can see it, but under there is what they call a stump jumper, and that's where your blades are connecting to, that big round plate right there with the blades on it. So these are things you want to kind of check when you buy a piece of used equipment to make sure they're not damaged. Otherwise, that reasonable price you may have paid for that piece of equipment can turn into a lot more than it may have cost to just go out and buy a new one. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this tractor strapped up with some straps so I can take this off, because unfortunately I don't think my 3-point hitch will lift up high enough to that trailer to be able to attach it to get it off the trailer. So I'm just going to use the bucket and some straps such as we did when we loaded it on here to get it down, and then we'll go inside and we'll drain the oil out of the gearbox, add some grease to the fittings, and this thing should be ready to go. Alright guys, so we got the tractor inside the garage in the shop. I'm going to go ahead and service the bush hog back here. As you can see, Did go ahead and hook it up, brought it in. This will be the first time we mess with this thing really. Never even turned it on yet. So I can let you guys know right now that if you're not going to be using your brush hog, aka bush hog, very often, it may be more suitable for you to go out and consider buying a used one like I did. This is the 5-foot version of it. Some people have mixed opinions on what they want as far as the gearbox goes. They want something a little bit more durable in some of these Countyline or Land Pride versions of these bush hogs, but I feel for the 2-acre space and maybe doing some little side work or something on the side, you know, that this would be suitable for me. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you guys a few little things we're going to use to go ahead and give this thing a little tune-up / service and get it ready to use for the first time this year. And then we'll go ahead and turn it on, make sure it works, so we can see what I got for my $850. So yeah, versus $2,200 of tax or so, give or say, for a brand new one. We'll do like a little once over on it too, a closer, so you get close up, so you guys can actually see just what I got for that amount of money. And then you guys can tell me in the comments whether or not you think it was worth it. All right, guys. So let's see what we can do here to get this grease out. My little bucket, a little ratchet wrench, and so on. So, and I wouldn't advise sitting on your bush hog when it's on the tractor up in the air. I mean, I know these things are meant to take weight, but it's just my opinion. So, let's see what we got here. What kind of size I'm going to need, maybe even bigger. Oh, there it is. So, it looks like we are going to be using a 7/8 socket in order to pull that plug off there. I'll go ahead and just turn it up a little bit here. There we go. Just like that, comes right off. Set that to the side there, we won't lose it. And let's see if this works. I mean, I hope it does. I don't know if it's going to, but I mean, I would rather do this than to have to sit there and turn it upside down, but we'll see. This thing may even be like too empty to even do that too, but let's see. This may not work, guys. I don't know. It's just an idea of mine. Like I said, this oil may be too low to even. Or this just may not pump it up. I mean, there's oil on the end of this. And actually, the oil is pretty clear. It doesn't look like it's too, well, it's a little bit. It's a little bit white. I don't think it's going to work. I think that oil is too thick for that. So maybe you have to lift that up. I don't know, we'll try it. I feel like I'm getting it. Oh, there we go. Now it's coming. Ooh. Yeah. It's kind of weird how this is working. Oh yeah, see that, guys? Watch. There we go. So that's what you want to do. You want to just pump that oil and let this little thing fill up with air. It takes it a second because that oil's thick, and then just look at that. Ugh. So okay, my idea does work. You just got to be patient in order to get that oil to come out like that. Yeah, so you guys can see, maybe it's hard to tell, but yeah, I don't know if you guys can see that or not, if it's focusing. I'm just trying for you, but that oil is kind of nasty and old. It's pretty white. So I'd say it's time to get that out of there. So anyways, we'll go ahead and we'll fast forward through this because I know this can take a while and I don't want to sit here and take 30 minutes to show you me pumping some oil. Once I get it done, then we'll go ahead and take this little piece off, this little plug, and then we'll add oil until it comes out of there, and then we'll be good to go. Okay, so I think I got it all out. There's probably a little residual still in there. I guess tipping it upside down would probably make it to where you could get a little bit extra out of there, but I'm gonna wager to say that we're pretty good. Let's take a look at that. See if I can see it on camera now. Let's see. hard to tell. Let me go under some lighting here. Look at that. Ugh. Guys, that's wasted. Look how white and nasty that is. That oil is just wasted. So yeah, probably a good idea to change out oil on these. This thing's about 2 years old, this implement, and he used it for the first few months and then decided to turn his field into a crop field. Bought a tiller for it, stopped using the brush hog, never used this thing again. And I actually know the guy. I didn't realize who it was till I got to his house, and then after I seen him, I was like, oh, okay. So it didn't come across to me to be a bullshitter. I'm just kind of still pumping a little bit extra oil out of there, just trying to get whatever I can get. I'm just moving this thing around inside of the gearbox just to see if I can get in areas that maybe I really think it's just, that's about it. So let's take this little plug off, see if anything drips out of here. Shouldn't. See what I mean, guys, by the crescent wrench? It's just a little square plug. It's really small, so all right. I'm just, sounds empty. Okay, let's just call it on that. Take that off a little bit. Get that out of the way. Oh, shoot. You know what I think I just did, guys? And that's my fault. I did. So I dropped the plug in here, but it's all right. Ooh. Ooh, look at that. I don't even want to say what that looks like. Ooh, look at that. That's gross. Anyway. So, I dropped the plug in there and got it back out. But that's nasty. That oil is... I think gear oil tends to smell nasty anyway. It doesn't really smell that great. Alright, so let's add some more gear oil back into this thing. And until it starts to pour out a little bit. What I would suggest doing too is, I mean, you could probably put this up under there or something, but I think a rag or just some tissue such as this will work just fine. So when it drips out, it comes out there so you don't get all kinds of oil on your bush hog and then, you know, dirt sticking to it and makes a mess. I'm real fickle, like I mentioned in my last video. If you haven't checked out my last video regarding the whole pre-inspection, first tractor type thing, then you can check that out. After delivery inspection, pretty good video for people that are just starting out getting a tractor. Like I said, this is new to me. I don't have anyone out here showing me anything. This definitely smells different than the old oil. Let me see. Yeah, and it's clear. You can see right there. So that other oil is definitely on its way out. But let's just go ahead and let's add oil into this until we get a little bit of a residual drip coming out that side. And this isn't going to do anything but help, guys. I mean, granted, you know, the other oil I'm sure could have still worked for a while, but I don't want to sit here and chance messing up the gearbox, because if I do get this thing running good, oh, see it? There it is. It's coming out clear too. So there we go. That's what we wanted. So the residual inside of it that was left wasn't that bad. So cool. Not a big deal. Pretty easy ordeal to get that cleaned out. Clean it up really well. You know, take care of your stuff. I'm sure some of you guys are rolling your eyes like, oh my God, it's just a tractor implement. But you know what? Some of us aren't going to be able to buy a new tractor every year. You know, and some of us just take a lot of pride in some of these expensive items. I know I do. I don't take nothing for granted. Some people will never be able to have a tractor or afford a tractor. And it's a blessing to have one of these to do work around the property. Sorry if you hear my guard dogs. I got a few German Shepherds outside in the background barking, but know, just firm that up nicely. And there we go. So not a big deal. You guys seen how easy that was. You know, just take care of your stuff. Didn't even really use that much oil. So I'm assuming the housing, the opening in here where the gear, I would think that it doesn't go all the way back, the opening. It's probably like a channel, maybe like this thick right here all the way around for the amount of oil I got out of there and the amount that I just put back in. But yeah, that should be good. It really didn't take that much. I'm really surprised. I figured, you know, and the thing about it, I have this brush hog on a tilt right now on the implement, around the 3-point hitch. So that would pull the oil backwards a little bit, thus allowing a little extra, and it still didn't take a huge amount. So I'm gonna say we'll double check it again after the first use, because you know I'm not gonna be doing like huge areas. So once I run it the first time, I'll come back and check that, and if we need to add a little more oil, we'll add a little more oil at that time. So let's move on to the next step, which is greasing the Zerks. Alright guys, so we're down here on the tire. As you can see, the first grease Zerk is right there. A little hard to tell, but kind of got a little angle. It comes down and then out a little bit. So that way I can get this guy hooked right up to it, such as that, and then pump some grease to it. So let's go ahead and do that. So a lot of times you'll see the grease come out of the side down here. It's probably gonna be hard for you guys to see it. I'm gonna go ahead and try this Zerk, and I don't know, it doesn't look like this Zerk is gonna work very well. I think, judging by how the grease isn't going into this Zerk maybe froze up a little bit. So I may have to take this one off, because it's been sitting for so long that it, let's see if we can do this a little bit tighter there. Nope, you can see it's just splattering out on the side. So I'm going to take this Zerk off and try a new Zerk on it, and then we'll go from there. So I'm just going to go ahead, and might be a little hard to tell in the video, but I'm going to go ahead and pull this Zerk off, because it just seems like it's wasted. You guys can see, get you a better light. Yeah, it's just like a little angled Zerk with that little tiny ball. It's like a ball bearing, and the end of it, they get froze up from sitting for so long, and then after that they won't allow grease to come through it, and that's what it seems like is going on. I'll try it again just to see if it'll put grease through it. So I won't even allow the grease to go through that. So that one I'm going to consider to be wasted. I'll go ahead and put another one on. So you just kind of got to match up the threads on this one. And the problem that I have with the ones that I have here is they may not fit. I don't know. I don't know if I have the right ones, guys. We may have to just bypass this for now in the video. Let's check it out. Definitely the wider size here, but I have 3 different boxes of them, so I'm gonna say that one almost looks like it. This one's actually a little bit wider here. Let's see. That almost looks like it. Oh, there's only one way to try it. I'll find out. We'll just kind of screw it in there and see what it does. I don't know if that's the right one or not. Let's try a different one. There we go. Don't know if that's gonna work. Okay, so you can see I got this little Zerk in here. It may be hard for you guys to see me putting it in, but it's not a big deal. I'm just gonna go ahead and wrench it up in there. Seems to be threading just fine. A little bit more. There we go. So it's gonna make it harder for me to get the Zerk on now, the grease nipple, I should say, onto the Zerk, because it's not on an angle. So I'll have to kind of go off to the side just like this, and just kind of pop it on like that. But it should still work, I would think. Hopefully. It's a little bit difficult to get it, but there we go. Now we're getting grease in there. Let me check the sides. Don't see any grease yet, so this is probably kind of dry. So by now the grease would be all over the place if it wasn't going in. So we're definitely getting it up in there. Must be pretty dry. I'll wipe that off a little bit just so I can continue to monitor how much grease is going in and actually not going in. This is a little bit difficult on camera, guys, to do this. There it is. Okay, it's coming out the side. Perfect. That's what I wanted to see. Don't know how great you guys were able to see that, but on the edge right here, the grease started coming out. So that's what we wanted. Mission accomplished. I'd wipe off your grease, Zerk. Like I said, I'm fickle like that. But, so that's the first one. Then we're gonna check out a couple more. There's one up here too. It's right there, that grease Zerk, so we'll get that one next. Alright guys, so we got the next one on the top of the wheel spindle here. I'm gonna clean it off really good. And we'll see if we get grease going in, or if it just kind of backs out on us immediately like it did on that first Zerk. If it doesn't, then I can continue to just grease it and not have to worry about taking this one off either. Doesn't look as bad as the one below, so we may get some in there. Yes, it's going in. And I can see it. If you look right here, guys, there's some coming out right there, so we're already good. Perfect. So now we're gonna move on to the shaft, and I'll grease that up. Clean up my mess as I go. Okay guys, what I think I'm gonna do for the shaft, because it's hard to get a good camera angle with the shaft attached to the gearbox, I'm just gonna go ahead and take it off since we're putting a new one on anyways, and then I can give you guys a better bird's eye view, or if not even better than that, where the Zerks are and how you can get to them pretty easy. Because I know I've seen some people with some of the feedback saying that they had a real hard time getting to these Zerks, but there is a little bit of a way to get to them easier. So let's go ahead and just take this shaft off, and then from there we can take a better look. So I'm just gonna go ahead and don't lose your little nut and your I forgot what they call these tension washers. Anyway, not in my mind right at the second, but I would just stick them back on like that. Screw that back on, because you're gonna reuse this bolt for the new shaft. And then I may have to hit this off with a hammer to get it off at first, because it's been on for a while. Who knows? But I'm gonna go ahead and get this off, guys, and then we'll come back and we'll take a look at it. Okay, so I wanted to show you guys, you know, to get this shaft off of this shaft off of here, period. It's not gonna be easy. So you have this little ring right here, as you can see, and that goes around the inside down in there, which goes onto this, basically this nub coming off of the gearbox. Not sure exactly what the name is. In order to get that off, once you get that little ring off, I would suggest getting a little bit of this blaster penetrating oil. So that way you can kind of beat around at this shaft to get it to slide off. Otherwise, you guys are going to have a hard time. And I knew this was going to be the case, so that's why I didn't sit there and film it. But we'll get back to it. We're going to go ahead and beat it off. That sounded bad, but we're going to go ahead and get it off, and then we'll get back to you. Okay, guys, so I went ahead and got the penetrating oil on there. Like I showed you guys, there's a little ring here that you got to take off. Otherwise, this shaft's not going to slide off of this other, or the shaft for the PTO isn't going to slide off the gearbox shaft. And then the only way to kind of get this off is to kind of tap it, maybe pull on it. A little bit of time. And there you go. So you can see where this little ring, and get some better lighting. See that little indentation? That's where this little ring sits on there. So you just gotta pull that ring off. And I'm gonna go ahead and clean that shaft off. And then we'll show you guys the grease fittings on the PTO shaft, and we're gonna put the new one right on. Okay guys, so got the old shaft next to the new one. As you can see, this is all peeling apart. This whole thing is just cracked all right there. This thing has had some sun wear. Right here is the grease nipple. It's the grease Zerk. Probably seized up, but if it is, you can get a little wrench in there and just turn it off. Put a new one on, and then just put your grease gun on there and grease those so you see the grease coming out of the edges right there. I'm not going to grease this right now because I'm not going to use it. I'm going to put it away as a backup emergency one. And then, of course, the little button right here, the little spider crawling around in here. You know, it's one of those little hopping spiders, but anyway. This button is kind of, you can see it's really tight. It's like full of dirt. It's kind of gunked up, so good thing I'm changing this. So, like on this new one here, you know, it can be difficult to get down in there. You know, you're looking for the grease Zerk. Well, you see this hole right here? There's a hole. And if you use that hole, you can get to that grease Zerk that's in the back instead of having to try to take this whole housing or this protection shield off. So you'll just turn your shaft until it's lined up with the Zerk facing this hole. Then you can take your gun, and I'll show you guys in just a sec. And you guys can just stick it right down into the hole, such as this, and then connect it, and that's how you're going to grease these. Same for this one on this side. There's a grease Zerk right down in here, and it's hard to get it on. There it is. But not quite, but I can see it through here. There. So there it is on the grease Zerk. So then I could continue to grease these. And that's how you get to these difficult ones, is by utilizing that hole. I don't know if some of you guys haven't noticed that hole. For those that are trying to grease these every once in a while and are trying to get in behind it and it's really difficult. Well, it's a lot easier to just go through that little hole there. And I think that's what this hole is designed for, is for your grease Zerk. So anyway, same thing with this shaft. We're going to go ahead and stick this shaft back on. Put it onto the bush hog, and then we're going to go ahead and try it out. So I would take a fine grit sandpaper and just kind of clean this up a little bit, just so when you put your new one on, it slides on right. Clean it with your finger real good. Get off that old rust everywhere. Do that too, so you can see how the shaft is nice and clean again. So that way when you put the other part of the shaft back on there, it goes on pretty slick. So what I would suggest is possibly putting a little bit of grease on here first before you even stick the shaft on there. Just put a little bit on your finger and then put it on there. That'll keep it nice and lubed up, so it's not hard to get this thing on and off in the future. So I'll just take a little bit on my finger, like so, and go ahead and just rub it around that. And that'll keep it from rusting too. Just on both sides a little bit, such as so. You don't have to go psycho with it. There's no need to go crazy and make a mess, a big glopping mess. But so you're going to want to take your shaft here and line the hole up with the hole on there again.
little bit difficult to get this one on. So what I did, guys, is I took the shaft and I pulled it apart in half so you have this metal area, and I put it on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just barely tap it on, like so. Use the flat end of my hammer so I don't ruin the shaft here. Just tap it on. Just go slow, don't hit it all crazy. See? Once you get it lined up with the hole down here, and that's it. You don't want to go all psycho just to get your bolt back through. And don't forget your lock washer, is what I was trying to tell you guys earlier. Nut, lock washer, and bolt. Just like that. Then you're going to put your lock washer back on. Then your nut. And we'll go ahead and tighten it up real quick. And then we'll put the PTO shaft, the other end of this shaft, back on here, which is going to be fun, but hey. See if I can get it back on, then we'll go ahead and tighten that up. And actually, you know what? I think I'm going to tighten that up first. Makes more sense. And that's kind of a little bit of a pain in the butt because you're not able to just stand on top of your shaft here or your deck for your PTO, but that's that. So, and I didn't grease the new one because it's already well greased, so I don't want to go overboard. So when you're putting the shaft half back together, you just got to you want to clean that off. That's from me hitting it. Hopefully it'll slide back in together because I didn't really hit it so hard to where I beveled this down, causing a problem. So find out right now. This might be a little bit difficult, guys, so bear with me. Just kind of tight getting in here is the only thing. So what I like to do is just take this blending, lift it up here, come around and lock it as such. The same with this one, just to hold it up. So I'm gonna go ahead and get things prepped, guys. Then what we'll do is we'll take that little cap, which is down here, off of your PTO. There's two, and actually this one doesn't even have any bolts on it. It'll probably just pull off. So I'll go ahead and pull this little cap off, and I'll connect the shaft to the PTO, and we'll take it outside to test it out where it's safe. I wouldn't advise testing it around anyone, especially if you're doing something like me with a video and a cameraman. Just in case some of the blades goes wrong, you never know. Some could fling out or cause, a disruption that can injure people. So we're gonna go ahead and, like I said, clean it up. We'll get the PTO and the shaft all put and hooked together, and we'll back this thing out of the garage and we'll try it out. So guys, don't forget that little ring that I showed you, that tension ring that goes on this shaft on the very end. You gotta spread it apart and it clamps on that little groove. I almost forgot to show you guys that, but I put that back on to keep this shaft, if you pull this bolt off, from just pulling off right away. So it's just kind of like an added little function to it. But like I said, we're gonna go ahead and get this thing backed out, and we're gonna test her out. Okay guys, so this little cap, it's kind of cool because you can just slide it back over the PTO. And that's just to protect it from dirt and grit. It's got a little thin coating of oil. I'm gonna go ahead and just put some on my finger. We're gonna get this thing coated a little bit better now. Then when you put your little safety case back over it, it'll keep the grease from getting all full of dirt. So that's mainly what you guys are doing with this, is just keeping everything greased up and protected from all that nasty dirt. Especially if you're in a dirt area like myself, a lot of dirt flying around. So just a little bit of grease.
we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna drop this shaft down. And so there's a button like I was showing you guys. It's this button right here. That kind of pulls this little nub that goes right inside this groove. There's a groove right in the back there. So once you guys put it on, you got to hold the button in. It's gonna be hard to tell from that angle, but we're gonna show you anyway. So just gotta turn this until you, maybe a little bit hard to do. There we go. There, you hear it lock in place? So there we go. That's how easy it is. So now you can take a look at your whole shaft. And, you know, like I said, I'm probably preaching to the choir on a bunch of people, but your shaft will extend out. So when you drop your whole deck down with your 3-point hitch, this right here will extend out. And then as you lift it up, it'll go back in. And this, make sure it's in there because you don't want any problems or stripping a gear or the PTO or anything like that before you go to turn it on. So we're gonna back this bad boy out, fire up the tractor, and we're gonna engage this thing slowly, let off the clutch real easy, and then we'll crank it up a little bit higher. All right guys, so we're gonna go ahead and turn this on, and let me show you the way to do it. I know it may be hard to hear, but when you're turning on your PTO, on these HST models, you want to make sure that you push in your clutch. And you want your throttle to be all the way down to start your PTO. You don't want to start it all the way up at the number 2 on your dashboard here, because then it'll just jerk in the gear and that can damage the gearing and the PTO. So remember, put in your clutch first, like so down here, check it out. You're going to push in your clutch, and then over here, as you can see, right down here, is my PTO. So I'm going to slowly engage that, and then I'm going to let off my clutch real slowly and look back here. Once you get it spinning, then you're going to go ahead and turn your RPMs up to a normal speed. I'm all the way down to my bottom throttle. I'm going to push my clutch back in, and then I'm going to disengage the PTO and then slowly let off the clutch and let it wind down. Now I've disengaged the PTO completely. As you can see, that shaft will just start slowing down by itself. Oh shoot! As you can see how it slows down, and I don't have it engaged anymore. And then that's it. You can see the blade down in there spinning still. And that's how you guys get this thing running. Alright guys, I appreciate you guys tuning in to Review It TV for another cool video. Wanted to show you guys about the new bush hog that we purchased used, and how to service it and go over it and actually hook it up, put a new shaft on, and then engage it, turn it on, test it out, make sure you got your money's worth. If you haven't checked out our first video on this tractor, go back to the channel, check that out. It's everything about receiving your tractor, doing after delivery inspection, just going over some functions and some other things. So I appreciate you guys once again checking out Review It TV. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time.